Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another meeting of the Research Triangle PowerShell User Group. My name is Mike Kanakis, and it is August 6th. I am here with my good friend Phil Bossman, and we are here to talk about all things PowerShell.
Okay.
First, let me welcome in my friend Phil. How are you, Phil? What's new?
I am doing well. PowerShell is doing really well. They've been at a couple conferences lately, and a lot of people talking. There's, really user groups are coming back into life. And I'm just super excited for that. We're really getting the community back engaged. So this is definitely a great point.
Nice, nice, nice. So, Phil, got a question for you tonight.
Yep.
How often are you dealing with certificates at work? What's that?
I'm doing it right now.
Doing
I need to.
like right now? Right now?
Yes, I was in a meeting at 3 o'clock today about certificates.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
We got to get rid of all those SHA-1s.
Yeah, certificates, right? Kind of necessary evil in today's day and today's day and age. But how does that relate to PowerShell? It kind of sucks that Microsoft's got some of these great tools that are not sort of like PowerShell friendly. I wish there was a way we could make certificates a little bit more friendly. Do you know anybody we might be able to ask for some help?
Well, I do know this guy. I think his name is Jake. Jake. I think his name is Jake.
Oh, wait.
He's been working through some stuff.
Well, let's see if we can get him on the line because I know he's been pretty busy today. He's a pretty active speaker.
So are you saying
I
you're
know he's got
phoning a
full
friend?
day. Hey, is there a guy named Jake Hildreth around who wants to join us for our evening tonight?
Hey.
Jake, nice to see you, buddy.
I heard my name and certificate, and I just had to make an appearance.
So he's like
Nice.
the Beetlejuice. You said the name enough times, and he just shows up.
Yeah. Hey, folks, we're just having a little fun. We are very happy to have our esteemed guest tonight, Jake Hildreth, who will be talking about certificates and how you can make some hard work with certificates a little easier with PowerShell. I'll let him expunge on that in a little bit. But how are you, sir?
Doing well. Doing very well.
Yeah.
Doing very well. Yeah. Happy to have you guys have me.
We are happy to have you here, and thank you for spending some time with us. We do have to get this moving, though, because Jake's a very busy guy. He's got another 2 or 3 demos lined up today, and so we're just trying to fit this one in. So we thank you for the time. How much time do we have before you have to go? I'm kidding, of course.
The only demo I have is figuring out how to sleep so hard after this.
Nice.
Like this is pushing way past my normal bedtime. So yeah.
Yeah. So Jake, let's be serious for a sec. You are a gentleman who works in the industry, who works on things like Azure and Active Directory. I know your history. You've done work for some companies, do deep dive and keep companies secure, find issues with their AD installations and things like that. I know that's the role of your current job. But most of those roles involve some work with certificates now, I would think, right? Certificates are probably a pretty everyday topic for you.
So, like the folks over at SpectreOps dropped a paper called Certified Pre-Owned back in 2021 that kind of like changed the whole game on certificate security and specifically Active Directory certificate security, right? And so I was a sysadmin when that dropped. I hadn't even moved into security yet, and it was like I joined Trimark shortly after that paper dropped, and about 2 months into the job, somebody's like, "Hey, we need to start working on certificate stuff," and I was like, "Oh, I just stood up a PKI recently, and now this is my life. This is all I know apparently." So yeah,
So
you got too close to the frame.
The only thing that tells me is you must like pain. I mean, anybody who works on certificates for a living is like, like, hey, punch me in the face, please. I enjoy that. I understand.
It's weird. Yeah, I'll be like, reading a book that's this thick and just being very happy about it. I don't know what's happening. So
yeah. Well, the reason we had you join us tonight is because you've done some really cool stuff, highlighting a tool called Crescendo. And so people probably that are new to this group or to this call are probably wondering what Crescendo is, and we'll give you a chance to talk about that. But essentially, Jake's found a way to take a non-PowerShell tool and make it really PowerShell friendly, which allows him to do his work much faster and easier and at a bigger scale. Am I basically right with the premise?
basically right. Yeah, we'll dig into the why a little deeper.
Sure.
as we go on, because I actually figured out how to insert a GIF into my slides today, and so
Nice. Nice. I
yeah,
did
I
see that.
wasn't sure
Yes.
if it was going to work, and
Yeah.
it did. So yeah, we'll
So
talk there.
are you gonna do anything like crazy and tell me that like by the end of this presentation I might actually enjoy working in certificates? It's gonna be so easy now with this new tool. Are we going to that level? Well,
Did you get the bottle of whiskey that I sent you that you have to finish before this talk is over? That's about the only way that you're going to handle it. No,
yeah.
we're just trying to take a little bit of pain away, right? That's
Yeah.
all, just a little bit of pain. So
So
So let's feel the magic.
we're basically going to say, certificates are certificates, but manipulating the data is going to be a little easier. Is what we're
a
looking
little
at here,
easier.
right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, working with right now one specific tool. I've got plans for some of the other ADCS tools, but one specific tool that
Yeah.
certutil.exe. So yep.
Yeah. And so
Nice.
disclaimer for the people that are watching this at home, we all acknowledge certificates are not an easy topic.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a challenge, and it's a language all to its own. This the nomenclature for certificates. It's not that difficult when you start to get into it and work with it on a regular basis, but it can be a very frustrating topic. And so, if Jake talks about some stuff tonight that just seems a little bit over your head, just roll with it and just kind of try to adjust to it. Certificates is a topic you need to spend some time with and work up to, and will make more sense over time. Um, we're here to sort of show you some tools that help you do your work a little better and faster. You're certainly not going to be a certificate expert after tonight, but hopefully, if you have some experience with certificates or you want to learn a little bit about certificates, maybe we can introduce you to some tools that will help you figure that out a little easier. So
Absolutely.
maybe,
And just so we're clear, there's going to be very little talk about actual certificates tonight. It's
right.
going to be more focused on Crescendo. So, and
Yeah.
how I use Crescendo to make things a little easier. So, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yep.
the actual topic of the data you're pulling is certificate data. So it's right. So yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So anywho,
Cool.
if you want to take it away, feel free. Phil, do you have anything you want to close with before you get started?
No, I think we did a good explanation. Just the idea that Crescendo is this thing, that this secondary module that you can use to then connect to other tools, and to I think what Jake's going to talk about at this point soon is this idea that, hey, Certutil is kind of this like archaic, like even archaic, but this idea that it's not too user friendly, but then wrapping it into what we think of is this very consumer friendly. It is the PowerShell world that is very approachable. Is that Crescendo can help you do that, and I'm thinking that's exactly where Jake is going to go at this point. And so I think I kind of put that out there for you. So this is perfect opportunity for you to kind of start sharing and go from there.
Yeah,
Sure.
and
All right.
as Jake gets ready here, I'm just gonna enjoy some music, and if you don't get the joke, you should join us in the meetups, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about right now. So take it away, Jake.
All right, y'all. Thank you for having me out today. I've always wanted to speak here, and so the fact that Mike, you reached out, really just has made me happy. So, as has been mentioned many times, my name is Jake Hildreth. You can find all my stuff at jakehildreth.com. Um, and it wouldn't be a PowerShell talk without an agenda. I thought I started with something else, but we're going to hit with what is Certutil to start. Certutil.exe has been dropped many times throughout this conversation. We're going to talk about what is Crescendo and dig a little bit into that. Not super deep, but a little bit. Then we're going to actually do some amplification. Crescendo amplifies things, right? So we're going to amplify something. And then we're going to dig into just a tiny little gotcha that I had while working with Crescendo and how I got around it. So this is what I was going to say. Wouldn't be a PowerShell talk without, get AD user identity, Jake Hildreth. This is who I am. I am a husband. That's my wife, Carrie, on screen. That's my daughter, Kate. I am a recovering sysadmin, which I like to use that phrase because it has been 87 days since I thought about installing an Exchange server in my house. Thankfully, have not fallen victim to that. 4 years ago, I moved from system administration work into security consulting, and earlier this year joined Semperis, and our focus is Active Directory security, Entra security. I love to make open source tools now. I had never committed anything to GitHub until I joined working at Trimark 4 years ago. Now I'm in there all the time. And as of March 1st this year, Microsoft MVP and PowerShell and Identity and Access. So super happy about that. So that's me. But what is Certutil? I'm not going to make you read this, but basically, Certutil is a piece of software that is installed on every single Windows machine. And it is used to interact with certificate stuff. Yeah, you can interact with create certificates, you can convert certificate types, you can check with certification authorities to see when the latest issued certificates were, etc. Mike, I saw you came on the screen, so why don't you hit me with your question?
I was just going to say that, you know, if people are not familiar with Certutil, it's because it's a command line tool. It's, you know, it's going back to the old days of DOS, and so unless you have a reason to work with certificates, it's not something that you would find in the start menu or anything like that. But
Absolutely not. Yeah.
if you're working with certs, it's one of those tools you're going to go to query some information.
Yeah. Yeah. It's once you get past the surface level, right? If you have to do something even slightly complex and need to break out of the GUI that is provided, which is reveals, much like most Microsoft products, right? Reveals just enough to be dangerous, but makes most of the job easy, but reveals just enough that you can really just shoot yourself in the foot. That's once you go past that, you're going to work with Certutil. You're going to work with Cert REQ, etc. But like CertRec, I guess. I don't know why I called it REQ. But yeah, it is multifunction, and it's got a ton of switches that are just not exactly intuitive, a bunch that are hidden, like you cannot see them. And so it's difficult to work with. And just as an example here, like this first one, what you're doing is querying the registry of your local computer at this specific location in the registry to try and figure out how the audit filter is set on your local security certification authority. Because, spoiler alert, auditing is not enabled on Active Directory certificate services by default. I don't know why. Next one up here, right? Approve a pending certificate request. You can, as a certificate authority manager, approve things remotely. You don't have to go into a GUI. You could just script this stuff. Last one on the screen here is important. Edit flags. These configure how the certification authority operates. There's actually a bunch of different flags, and we'll talk about those. But you can, connect to a remote certification authority using Certutil and configure it. So, like I said, once you break out of the GUI, that's when you have to start using this. So, why am I using it all the time? It's definitely masochism. Mike, I see you.
So Jake, I got to tell you something. You started with there's a bunch of hidden switches.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going through these commands, and I just had this thought, and I'm like, I'm just thinking about how much pain you've suffered to find these things, because you didn't find these until you needed a way to do something that didn't exist. So for the people at home, when we have these guys that do these demos and they stumble on these sort of like obscure things, there's a story behind every one of those that he's probably never going to share, but there is pain involved with getting to this level of knowledge with these tools. And I'm just, as a former sysadmin, thinking about, man, I'm just wondering what those things were that led you to down the path of these things. You don't find these tools without, being in some stuff.
So it's funny. So I say masochism, but my serious answer is that, like, in order to get information from a lot of the certification authorities in an Active Directory environment, Certutil really is the easiest way to do it, unless you want to reuse somebody else's tools, which when I was working back at Trimark, like, we didn't use other people's tools absolutely at all. Like, that was just a rule that we did. We wrote everything in-house, or we used Microsoft tools. And so it was, I have to go use Certutil, or I have to do my own RPC programming, and I was scared. I
So that
really
means
was scared.
so that means you couldn't use that awesome PKI module that's open source. I forget who made it. That gives a lot of
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
understand.
PKIX is the DLL that wraps then PSPKI is the PowerShell module that wraps PKIX, and then PSPKI Audit is the auditing tool that SpectreOps released with their white paper. Like, I couldn't use any of that, right? We needed to just write things fresh. And so I dug in, and Certutil happened, right? Like, almost immediately you're hitting Certutil questions. Okay, how do I pull that audit filter? Why is auditing enabled? Why is auditing disabled? There's a really dangerous flag called the subject alt name 2 flag, which allows, all right, I'm not going to dig too deep. We're starting to hit
I opened
into
up a wound.
ADCS knowledge, right? But yeah, it was like those things just started popping out, and and at the time, I didn't know about Crescendo.
Yeah.
I had heard about it once from Jason Helmick on Run As Radio, and I was like, that sounds interesting. I was just starting my PowerShell journey to begin with, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like, earlier this year, I started to I'm building out a new set of tools for ADCS auditing and stuff, and I'm realizing, like, that Crescendo is really what I need to wrap Certutil. So that way I don't have to learn a brand new tool. I don't have to learn C# programming. I don't have to learn anything super deep. I can reuse the things that are right in front of me. So let's talk about what Crescendo actually is. Again, I'm not going to make you read all of this. This definition is up on the Crescendo GitHub, but I wanted to highlight 2 phrases, which are development accelerator and amplifies. And when I read those, I was like, I immediately knew what this does. But I want to dig and explain that just a little bit more. So what is meant by amplifying? So, okay, we looked at certutil, what happens at the command line, right? You can take this unstructured, disgusting output and you can turn it into something like this and something like this. Those are true objects. Right now, it's just a PS custom object. My plans are in the future that this will be a true object with an actual type, not just a PS custom object. But, this I can work with. This I don't need to rewrite every single time that I'm checking for who the certificate managers are on a machine. I can just write this really simple thing, and it works. Plus, you get access to the common parameters. You get pipeline support. You can easily elevate on, Windows and Mac OS and Linux. And some of the comment-based help stuff is pre-built for you. If you look at the module that I created with this, it's funny because if you run the comment-based help or get help on any of the commands, it's just showing you the full output of Certutil. Not quite the greatest right now. Needs to be improved, but hey, we're in version 0.0.0.0.0.1 right now. So how do we actually amplify Certutil? Pretty simple base process. You start by installing Crescendo. You got to use Crescendo, you have to install the Crescendo module. Then you write JSON to define your commandlets. And I mentioned earlier, right? Like, I hated and still don't really like JSON, but I hated JSON, and now I can deal with it. Then we're going to write some PowerShell that actually handles the output from the native command. That may be, better error handling. It may be parsing the output, etc. And then we export the module. And then that's it. I was going to say profit, but yeah, it's open source, so of course we're not profiting. All right, so this is all good, but I'm going to actually show you how I did this for certutil.exe with one command. So we talked about edit flags earlier. This is the command that we are going to work through. What this does shows you the status of all edit flags by looking at the remote registry of a remote computer that is hosting a certification authority. And I never really explained what a certification authority is in this context, but it's basically when you request a certificate in an Active Directory environment, it is what issues the certificate. So that's what we're talking about in this case. Okay, I'm going to break this command down real quick. .exe, it's the executable. -v, verbose mode. Then we name the certification authority. Before the slash is the host name of the computer. After the slash is the name of the certification authority itself. Get reg is telling you query the registry. And then lastly, where to look in the registry. That's all. When you run this command, prepare, because this is what you get. And this is gross. And it just keeps going. And I don't know about you, but the first time I looked at this, I was like, well, what the heck does this mean, right? Like, what? And what it means, and let's see if does my mouse work? Yes, it does. Okay. These lines that don't have the parentheses at the beginning mean that the thing is enabled. And then with the parentheses means that it's disabled. Without, reading docs, you don't know that. So let's go ahead and amplify that. So first thing you're going to do, super simple, just going to install Crescendo. It does require version 7 for Crescendo to work. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what it's calling and what is required. If anybody has an answer for that about what's required and why it needs 7, feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute and tell me, because I don't know. That being said, oh yes, somebody came off. Yes. No, it was just Mike. Okay.
Oh, sorry. But I was going to say something, so I'll just jump in here.
Okay, cool.
I sense that you had to qualify PowerShell 7. Like, I don't know why. At this point, like, PowerShell 7 has to be the default. We shouldn't have to still qualify, like, hey, you need PowerShell 7 for this. Like, people got to get with it. And, like, we're on PowerShell 7 now, right? And the tools are written for the latest version. Yeah, PowerShell 5 is still a thing, especially if you're a Windows admin, if you're supporting other stuff. But, it's PowerShell 7 is what we're ride or die with now. Mr. Judd, you have a question?
I do not have a question. I have an answer.
And
the answer, and the answer, as I understand it, is that Crescendo, even though we're using it in this instance for certutil.exe on Windows, it was designed to make sense out of the text output from the Unix commands. And since it is designed initially for Unix, it only works on PowerShell 7 because it is cross-platform.
Love it.
This is why Stephen needs to be on a panel, right?
Sounds great.
Another pre-meeting conversation. Yeah. Thank you, Stephen.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it did not point out the fact that it is cross-platform. You can use it in multiple platforms. So that being said, I also want to note that things that are created with Crescendo, if they're designed for Windows, if it's a Windows application, can the modules that you create from this process can be used in Windows PowerShell. So, yeah, install module or install PS resource. Doesn't matter. PS resource, obviously, done faster, easier to work with, etc. So, and Mike, I did want to comment. Some of the customers that I've had in the past that have highly restricted environments that we needed to do Active Directory assessments on would not install version 7. So I am coming from a life where I had to write everything to target 5.1. Some environments we had to actually like modify to use version 4. So
You're right.
painful.
I know, but let's be honest. That sucks. They suck.
It sucks.
Come on, right? Let's be honest. PowerShell
Yeah.
7, let's move forward, right?
Yeah.
We can also run Windows 95. I don't think that's the right thing to be doing either, right? So come on. I know. I understand. There's a reason, and life's tough in
Yeah.
some places, but
It's true. It's true. It's true. Cool. All right. So this is what you get with you install Crescendo. These are the commands that you get. Export Crescendo command, etc. I'm not going to read these to you, but this is what you're going to work with when you are working with creating a Crescendo module. Okay. So we talked about that one command that I showed you earlier, right? certutil.exe -v -config, the CA name, get reg, and then whatever. This is what the JSON is that covers that whole thing. Now, I'm showing this to you quickly because we're going to break this down piece by piece as well. So, but this is it, right? This defines how we take that certutil command and turn it into a PowerShell command. So, and yeah, there's a schema. IntelliSense works. It's fantastic. You don't have to remember a ton of the stuff. It just kind of your IDE generally just figures it out. It's fantastic. I say your IDE like I don't just use VS Code. I don't touch anything else. I'm going to break this down. And I've bolded the sections of the command that we are actually going to be looking at this moment. So first off, certutil.exe -v. We are going to convert that into a command called, this kind of refers to the whole command, is get PC edit flag, because we're getting a edit flag, right? This is the original executable that we're using. -v, I want to be verbose, and because it comes before any of the parameters that I can actually define in the final PowerShell output, I'm just including it as an original command element. That's something that I had to play with. Did I want to make this a parameter, etc.? You'll understand that a little more as we go to the next slide. This is the part where we're now taking a native switch and converting it into a PowerShell parameter. We have, originally it was -config, and now we are going to call it CA full name, because -config doesn't really make a lot of sense to me just reading it. What am I configuring? CA full name, I know that I need to provide the full name of the certification authority. And then, if you don't remember, hey, look at that. We actually have a description that you can provide, giving you the exact form of what you need to set in. And then we can also, like a lot of things in PowerShell, we can define it as true. Next up, get reg policy edit flags. So this is one, right? The original was get reg. The new parameter that we're creating in the PowerShell commandlet is get reg. However, I don't ever want to actually pass that, so I just set a default value of policy edit flags. You have to have a little bit of artistry to figure out exactly how you want these things to happen. Mike, I see you came off again. What's up?
I just got a ton of questions tonight. I'm sorry. I'm
I
super
appreciate.
engaged.
I love having people that talk back to me. Otherwise, I'm staring at a camera and talking to no one, and I hate that.
I'm playing the role of Phil tonight. That's okay. I'm going to ask you a leading question because I saw something in the chat that I wanted to highlight. You didn't write all this JSON, did you? By hand?
So I did, and here's why. I wanted to learn how to write JSON. So for this specific thing, yes, I did actually write all this JSON by hand. That being said, that's what these commands are.
But that was
They
my point I was trying to make, is that someone who's watching and going like, damn, this looks like a ton of work and I don't know how to do all that. The tool is there to abstract some of this away for you. And you might need to know what the stuff is in there and make sure the syntax is right. But
correct.
Crescendo, the point of the tool is not just to do this conversion A to B, but to help you build the scaffolding to be able to do all that. And so we've already established early on, Jake's nuts because he works with certificates. He likes pain. So it makes sense to me that he would want to write his own JSON by hand. Maybe he tried to even do it in another language. I don't know, but you don't have to do all that. That's the function of Crescendo, is to make the process of getting the old utility to work in the new world easier.
Yeah, this specific command, right? So this export Crescendo command, you feed it, what your verb is for your new command, what your noun is, and what the base executable is, and then there's a ton of other parameters that you can set too. I just don't; those are the only ones I remember off the top of my head. And it creates that JSON for you, right? Like you could just export that JSON. A lot easier to
Yes.
work. Or sorry, it creates an object which then you can convert to JSON. So yeah.
So there's obviously work to be done, but the whole point of Crescendo is to help with that process. You're not, listen, Jake's doing a wonderful job. I'm making jokes, and there's a lot of JSON because there's a lot of switches and parameters to account for. But you don't have to write, 46 pages of JSON to make this work. You put in some input data and Crescendo builds it out for you, and you have an output, and maybe you have to verify that it spit out the right stuff. But that's the whole point of Crescendo, is to make this process easier. Jake's being very verbose so that you understand the process, but it's not this tedious task. Like, you're not going to be learning Latin, let's say, So you're doing great. People may not have realized that the tool has a function.
No, I think, Jake's doing a really good job at this point. So if he goes back a couple slides, you can see the JSON there. And so it's constructing those parts for you. And he's kind of talking through what all the pieces are. And, if you're semi-familiar with PowerShell at this point, so some of these things of parameters, indo invocation, should process, you should be able to kind of walk through some of those, or you've seen some of those terms before, but effectively it's going to scaffold that out for you, right? And so you're going to get this there, and then, that is the output from get export command, and then you can make it do what you want. And this is kind of where he's working. And so to get to that understanding, it's like, hey, this is partials of what you want, and then go from there. So I think you're doing a great job there, and good call out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I should just insert that masochism slide in between every other slide. It sounds like, because no, that's the way I work. I really like to, when I'm going to learn something, I'm going to learn the hard way and then figure out the tools that make it easier. So I just dove right into this, and I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it, going for it.
I think one of the values there, and you're going back just a quick couple of things, I'm going to point out exactly what you see here, is one of the values, especially with Crescendo, actually right where you were Certutil, that one page, is the idea is that
this one.
No, I think where it said Certutil minus V and all that, to that other point, is that the point is we live in a PowerShell world where, hey, we love tab complete and stuff like that. And so by adding this other stuff here, we can get a PowerShell module that does our tab completion, that does our completion, and it will help us with help, and it'll do all those components with it. And so within the module, and Mike was sitting and laughing, hey, he's being me because I'm usually chiming in where it is, but I'm too busy playing with your module. So that's what I'm doing. And so you're doing it. I'm like, all right, well, where's the help? Okay, I'm seeing this. And what is that? And so, but that's the value, is just by consuming the module it's on your website at that point. And so, I'm referencing back and forth, going, I can then practically apply exactly what you're working with from there. So You're doing a great job, and I think it makes it an approachable form. And so that's what I want to kind of share with others is that, hey, certutil minus v, and like it's not very, it's consumable at that point. But then
It's a
just
different
adding
paradigm, right?
parameters, it makes it very consumable.
It's just a different way, kind of an older way of it's that Unix way of thinking that everything is text, right? Everything is text that spits out. You've got to parse it and get it back into an object before you pass it back down the pipeline. I don't know how I don't know how I did bash scripting back in the early 2000s or batch scripting. I don't know how I did it. Once PowerShell and objects made sense to me, I was like, oh yeah, I can never go back. So, all right. So yeah, we wrote some more JSON. We wrote a lot of JSON basically. And then finally we get to a handler. And this is a function PowerShell function that can take that output from the native command and do stuff with it. So this is where it does start to get fun. If you like writing regex, I prefer to let the robots write my regex for me now. That's one of the very few things that I really, really like LLMs for, is writing regex for me. So all this is doing is taking that output. It's identifying the lines that have edit F in them, and then it's deciding based on whether it has the parentheses or not the parentheses, whether it is enabled or disabled. And once you've written this for all of the commandlets that you want to create, you finally then can just export your module, right? I'm going to show you this, the full JSON file that I've created, right? So we've got one command here, get PC dump. We've got another command, get PCCA administrators, right? Each one has a handler at the end of it. Some of these handlers, I can show some of this, right? We've got, let's see, enrollment agents. Some of them are a little more complex than other ones, right? I'm going through and I'm actually taking an access control list that is in binary and splitting it up and then converting it into human readable form. Some other ones are quite a bit lighter, right? I just want to return an error flag if there was an error, or sorry, return an error object if there was an error. Some of them are in between, right? It's all about how the native command presents it to you, and then what you need to do with it. But something that was very fun that I didn't mention in the slides is yeah, these things that well and well and love, right? Validating a set. Yeah, we can do that. So then again, more tab completion. You don't have to remember all of these flags that you want to enable and disable. You can just say, enable PC edit flag, the CA full name, and then the flag name, and tab through it, or control space to get the list, right? So bringing those PowerShell niceties to old school native commands. So this is all we need to do, right? We take that JSON file, we name the module, I force it to be true, and then I export it. Easy peasy. And then after you've exported it, import it. And these are the commands that I have created right now. So this is about, I'm going to say about 5% of the actual certutil usage. It is a very, very, for a very small command, it is very, very feature filled. But this is what I need for the tools that I'm writing later this year. This is it. I don't yet need to know any of the real security policy definitions. I don't need to know when the most recent issued certificate was, etc. I don't need to be able to approve certificate requests, etc. This is just the bare minimum. And like Steven said, like Judd said, right? It's like you do the thing and you get it to work, and then it works. And if it's working code, it's good code. So yeah,
Well, I think to that point is that, where I'm looking at this, just even, hey, you wrote some stuff and it's on GitHub and it's something, hey, you can see the scaffold of what you've built. And then I can easily add my little piece to it. And I can say, oh, so if I look at the reference for Certutil and I go, okay, you ran these parameters. Well, I can add my own and then expand upon yours. I can put an issue, or I can even pull request to your module, and it can be a consumable thing, and we can build a community overall, and we can just share overall. So I think that's something
Absolutely.
very consumable, and it's not too hard to get up and running.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, once we're all done, right? This is what we could do. Instead of writing that single line command and getting that, whatever it was, 40 or 50 lines of output, and then searching through or trying to use grep or trying to use select string or no, I now give me all of the edit flags. Tell me what the state of the one is that is, like I said, that dangerous one, right? Attribute subject alt name 2. That one, that's enabled, that's bad. We need to disable that. We could also, where object enabled equals true, etc. Like any PowerShell stuff now is available. So while working with this, I did run into one very, very minor compatibility issue. And it went back to what I was talking to Mike about here, right? I still think that everything that I need to write needs to work in Windows PowerShell 5.1. I don't know when that habit is going to break in my brain, but right now this is what I'm doing. So I'm sticking with it, and it forces me to really think deeply about what I'm doing. So I built my utilities, or I built my original set of commandlets, and I started to have just really confusing output. Hey buddy, what's going on? This guy loves to come in and hang out when I am on on talks. And I could tell that Certutil, when I did it in PowerShell 5.1, was just acting strange. Like it was saying that, Certutil expects the switches to be sent to it in a very specific order. If you send it in the wrong order, boom, done. It fails. Original position in the JSON. I had not seen that in the schema. I hadn't seen it when I was reading Sean's excellent blog series about getting started with Crescendo. I hadn't heard it when I watched Stevie talk about using Crescendo. But thankfully, Stevie is very, very easy to work with, and definitely talked to him on Discord one day. What are we looking at? Oh, 3 months ago now at this point. And yeah, he gave me the go ahead. So thank you, Stevie. I greatly appreciate it. But yeah, that's the basics of Crescendo. There are some things that I want to see, but they might already exist and I just don't know. So I am reaching out to all of you at this point to let me know if these things exist. So, and also a reference that I forget who it was, but somebody brought this up in the last RTP SUG. Community standards for project layout. Where do I put things? So right now, I've got everything in one folder, and this is gross. I don't like this, right? I've got all of my handlers here. It gives me the willies. So if someone has a community standard for this, I would love to follow that. Additionally, I would like to see a build system. So again, if this exists, please let me know. If not, I apparently sent Stevie down a rabbit hole last night when I mentioned this. He may have it already done as we've been talking through this meeting. I don't know. And then a pony. I want a pony too. So yeah, that's all I got, guys. Like that's all I brought. I want to thank my wife and daughter for putting up with my stuff. I want to thank the Crescendo creators, maintainers, and contributors, obviously. I want to thank you guys for having me. Like, so excited. I want to hear a song from Mike. I want What you got for me, Mike?
Oh, you'll be highly disappointed.
I want to thank Stevie for being like when I searched the PowerShell Discord for the word crescendo just to look for additional help, like Stevie's name came up like 100 times. I was like, all right, I got to reach out to this guy and see what he's got to say. And then all of you that came and joined, like super excited to just speak to people that are excited about PowerShell. It's normally not the people that I speak to are, PowerShell is a means to an end for security stuff. Speaking to PowerShell people is a whole completely different thing. So you can find me here. I got a link to all my stuff. Yeah, you can scan that. I promise I am not doing any sort of tracking on that. Head to PS Certutil, pull it down. Tell me how you use Certutil. Either file an issue or just reach out to me directly. I want to make this a tool that is used commonly, but I don't know what people aren't using. I build tools for myself, right? Until somebody else tells me, oh, this would be really cool. So there you go. And yeah, that's all I got.
I think you did a fantastic job. It was marvelous.
I think it was a really good job too. And I also want to, as you just said, right now you have GitHub, and GitHub has forms to, submit issues, submit pull requests. That is also a great way. I think that you're kind of alluded to the idea that you want to get that feedback. I actually want to kind of do some feedback at this point, primarily just to use what I use Certutil for different. Again, I come from a different world. And so that's really what it is. It's just, hey, where are we at? Tell me all the information, give me details about the certificates themselves, all that kind of stuff. So we can certainly play the game of, everybody solves their own problems, and we can do it in the community. We can certainly, everybody elevate everybody, and then we're moving to a better place. So similar
Rising
to
tide.
just
Yeah.
help as well. Because again, I was looking for help. And, there's no example here, but that's not too hard to build. It's completely straightforward, and there's a lot of scaffolding that can help you get to those points. So yeah,
there are literally there are entries in here where it has like examples, right? And yeah, I have no examples at the moment.
But
right?
to that point is that it's just as simple as you could put an example right there. And so there are examples online as to what other people have used for examples, and it's just copy and paste. Or, as you said, ChatGPT, give me an example for this command line. But boom, there you got one. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's nothing more than just put it in there and go from there. So
well, I think that people need to understand, first of all, you talked about a few things there. About like organizing my module, where should I put things, a build system, and for the people watching at home, you essentially just were like showing how the sausage is made, and for most people, they have no idea what you're talking about, which is fine, right? But these are open source projects built by one or a number of people. There's always room to make them better, right? There's always room to improve. This is a module that works. It does a few things really well. And so we should just go with that. And that's what version 1.1 is for, or version 2, right?
0.0.0.0.0.1.
Yeah. Well, I always start with version 1.0 because who wants to be, but you know what I mean. But no, and I also want to say one other thing. Let's not be putting it out there that Stevie Coaster is very helpful, because we don't want him. We don't want people to actually reach out to him and he start to think like have a big head or anything. But that was a really great walkthrough of how that was built. And I will say again, there's a lot that you showed. So there's actually one thing I was thinking of when you were presenting that Phil and I have talked about in the past that probably is a reminder for people, and then we'll wrap it up here, is, Jake did a very polished presentation tonight, and everything was in order and tidy and makes sense. But those of us who do these presentations spend a lot of time to make those presentations like that. It's okay. It took Jake a long time probably to build that and to figure out how to get through Crescendo and write it. And there was mistakes along the way.
6 months, 7 months.
Yeah. So the point is, start with Crescendo, play around with it, learn. Of course, it's not going to be easy on the first time you do it, but don't get lulled into complacency by watching these demos that are really well done. Jake has spent a lot of time to build this to make it a really great demo. Every one of us that has done demos has really cut away a lot of the frustration and punching the screen because I can't figure out this error. And you just see the polished, finished thing. But that shouldn't stop you from working with Crescendo, even if it's not as simple as it may appear. It's a tool to do things. You may struggle a little bit with it, but with a little bit of work, you can get through it. And we do have a wonderful community of people like Stevie and others that are willing to jump in and help if you're not sure what to do. But yeah, man, that was a great demo and a really good.
If you want, I was going to say, if you want an example of a demo that was not super polished, is earlier today, the PowerShell Wednesday one that we did with me and Gilbert, right? We were working through PS Stucco. And I had, he had created a bunch of slides. I walked through the slides. We did that. It was great. It was 20 minutes. 40 more minutes of the rest of the hour was him diving deeper and troubleshooting on screen, figuring things out, like, oh, this broke because this broke because this broke, and working through the process. And like, you all know Gilbert, he is incredibly quick and at what he does. So it's like things just flying around. Imagine that, but like spread over 6 months. That's kind of what I did. So yeah.
And I'm sure there's some moments where you're like, this, I'm giving up. This is not what I thought it was going to be,
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
yeah.
what came out of it is a cool tool, right? That's going to help a lot of people. And so kudos to you for the work. Great work by the community to help pitch in on areas that you felt you were a little thin on. And awesome. Really awesome and well done.
Yeah,
great
job.
But Phil, we got to wrap this up because he's got another demo to get to.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's got some more stuff to talk about tonight. So,
all right, no
I'll just play us out with a song.
No stairway.
All right. In all seriousness, we want to say thank you to Jake Hildreth for doing a really awesome job tonight, sharing with us his build process for how to get some old crappy utility into a new modern interface that's very PowerShell friendly. And that's just a sample of what you can do with Crescendo, right? So there's other tools that you can pull in and use Crescendo to your advantage to make them very PowerShell-y. And so, Jake, excellent demo on how to do that. And thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah, and if you want more content, certainly reach out to Mike or I. If you're looking for particular content, certainly look at our YouTube channel, which are, a ton of content there. If there's even in this case, Jake is talking about, hey, here's some ways to do it. There are a bunch of modules that we've already talked about. We've actually had presentation. Gilbert's done a presentation for us about some of these topics. And so if there's more content you're looking for, there's a ton of content in there. Join us. Come in person. We've done a lot of content, or we've shared a lot of content in the chat. We didn't bring it actually into the meeting itself because Jake was doing a phenomenal job. I really think he did a great job and get a good job. But come and join us in person. We meet the first Wednesday of every month, but also, watch the chat, watch the community, engage with the community, be available, and also engage and ask questions. And Mike and I are there to help. And I think there's so much in the community that can help as well. So, any final words, Mike?
I was just going to say, come back and join us next month when Jake shows us how he used Crescendo to map over a DC diag. So that'll be next month, and we're looking forward to that.
God, no. Thanks. Please don't do that to me.
So let's wrap it up and say thank you again to Jake, and for those watching at home, the magic is when you come to the live demos. So if you want to come see us live, join us. You can find us on Meetup at meetup.com. Look for Research Triangle PowerShell User Group, or you can go to rtpsug.com, find the information about the next meeting, and then you'll get all the inside jokes that we were talking about that happened before we did the demo tonight. Thanks again to Jake. Thank you, Phil, for joining and having some fun with me again tonight. And we'll see everybody next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.